Yes, good morning. Indeed, you asked me to say a few words about the big picture on how the COVID recovery will look like for the employment service ecosystem. And indeed, I use the wide definition of the word ecosystem here. And yeah, you can put the next slide. So just a few words about what has been going on recently on the labor market. The COVID-19 crisis has shown more than ever before that the groups that need employment services and support go far beyond the traditional client groups of public employment services, so the job seekers. And this is because unemployment does not capture the full extent of the impact of the COVID-19 crisis on the labor markets. Unemployment does not capture the full extent of the impact of the COVID-19 crisis on the labor markets, and other components of labor markets have increased in importance during the crisis. So, for example, the limits on job search caused by the pandemic pushed many unemployed into the inactive or marginally attached population. And even among those who remained in employment, many saw substantial adjustments to working time. Next slide. Regardless of these big changes, employment services have been crucial and stayed crucial in supporting job seekers, workers and employers through the pandemic. So despite the social distancing restrictions, difficulties in service provision and limited job vacancies, the share of unemployed who contacted public employment service in order to find employment did not really decrease. So this is not just registered unemployed, but really people who in the labor force service say that they contacted public employment service in order to find work. And the same is true for private employment services, as they also continue to support unemployed people in their job search. So close to 1/4 of unemployed people contacted actually private employment services to find work in EU in 2020. And in a few countries, private employment services are even more prominent than public employment service. So the systems do differ quite a lot here. So next slide, please. Looking now ahead, so how to support recovery and build back better. The global challenges and main trends have been mentioned also a few times during the past days of this conference, as the need to increase care economy, green economy, digital economy, but so that it's not staying just to be a wishful thinking. This needs cross-policy action and investments. Surely the third component, the digital economy, has increased quite quickly due to the recent crisis, but hopefully we don't need more crisis to also advance green economy and care economy. So there's certainly also a role for active labor market policies and employment services to support this building back better. So countries need to employ a full range of their resources and services to minimize potential longer run impacts of COVID-19 on the labor market. So providing training to support economic restructuring is one of the most obvious ways that public employment services can support the process of building back better. And of course, keeping in mind that training has particularly positive effects during recessions and recoveries. And in addition, time-limited, well-designed and targeted hiring subsidies will be important to support particularly vulnerable groups. Also, in the same time, the income support schemes need to be scaled down as the economy recovers. Also, income support will, of course, remain relevant as such to support investing in human capital and active job search. And capacity of the institutions delivering these different policies, measures, and services is key. So countries need to invest in their systems, delivering employment services, but only the high capacity of public employment services is not sufficient if other stakeholders are unable to provide their part. So it's crucial, particularly concerning vulnerable groups that need services from a varied set of policy fields. So all players of this ecosystem need to have the capacity to work together and provide their part for the success. Next slide.
And 1 more minute.
Yes, that's my last slide.
Thank you.
So these are, well, this slide actually draws from a questionnaire we conducted in the end of 2020 in OECD and EU countries, and actually 45 countries responded. And the one question was about what enabled each country to draw up their strategies to deal with the crisis and support the recovery. And yeah, so we drew from these answers and tried to capture the main enablers of agile systems. And one of the key components indeed is how the ecosystem is set up. So close to a third of the countries really stress the flexibility of the system of implementing active labor market policies. So this is all in all kind of dimensions. So for example, if it's a decentralized system, then how the accountability framework is set up. If it's a system that relies a lot on private providers, then how these relationships are set up. So are they mature, trustful, that they kind of flexibly and in agile manner be adapted if something changes on the labor market. And so on. And another component is really the relationships within the ecosystem. So more than half of the countries really highlighted the cooperation and coordination between stakeholders and policy domains. And also when we asked about which stakeholders were involved in setting up the new strategies, then basically all countries have involved all the key stakeholders. So the ministries, public employment services, social partners, and often also private providers, training providers, researchers. And maybe another key component really regarding the ecosystem is the regulation of the system. So whether the regulation is flexible and adaptable, and so really like what kind of components are in a high level regulation that needs to be adopted or amended each time through parliamentary process, what kind of elements can be adapted more flexibly, for example, by ministerial decrees or even supervisory boards of the employment services. And then, of course, there are other components such as the resources, digitalization, tools, plans, so on. But just the bottom line here that it looks like this is also the agility we need for the future. So it's not just about the crisis now, everything had to be done extra fast as the crisis hit so suddenly, but it gives a lot of food for thought also for the future ecosystems, how to design agile systems that are responsive to labor market changes. Thank you.